Hello and welcome friends. In the last session that we had, we talked about the hardware and the communication devices. Let us now talk a little bit about the softwares and different types of softwares that we have. Basically, computer software is basically of two types: system software and the application software, right? And now let us have a look at the difference between the two. See, system software is basically used by the system for internal functioning. So this is one software which is used by the system for internal functioning. What kind of internal functioning are we talking about? For example, what would be the processor scheduling? What would be the memory management? How much memory would be allocated to what task? That is the meaning of memory management. Processor scheduling is allocating the computer's processor's power to different tasks. So for example, when you actually start a computer, when you start working on it, there are so many tasks which keep running on the computer. Some tasks you yourself are doing on the computer, while some other tasks are basically running in the background. Now, which task is to be allocated how much processor power, right? This is going to be determined by the method, by this particular process, which is known as processor scheduling. And this is one basic component of the internal functioning of the computer, one basic system which determines how the computer is going to function. So processor scheduling is one, and I've told you processor scheduling does not mean scheduling. Generally we believe that when we talk about scheduling is about time. Here it's not about time, here it's about how much of the processor power is going to be allocated to a particular task. So in that sense it is scheduling. Then we have got memory management, how much of the memory would be allocated to a particular task. File management, how all the files would be kept, the various program files, how various system files, software files, how they are going to be managed. Input output scheduling, and user computer interface. Right, so all these things basically are part of the internal functioning of the computer, and they are actually managed by the system software. So system software is used by the computer system. What do we mean by system here? We mean the computer system, right, for internal functioning. So basically system software does all these things, right, and thus it helps in the internal functioning. It helps manage the internal functioning of the computer system. Again, it provides platform for other softwares. So it does provide platforms for other softwares. For other softwares, what do we mean by other softwares here? We basically mean the application softwares, right? So for other softwares that we have, the system software would provide a background, would provide a platform, which means that if your system software is not working, you cannot run any application software. You have to have a system software up and running, then only you can go for an application software. Is this okay? And please also understand that you need to have the system software first, then only the application software would be able to operate, right? Now let us talk a little bit about the system software. We have given you an idea about what system software does actually. Now let's talk about the different types of system softwares. So one type of system software is the operating system. So operating system that you use, right, is basically one kind of system software. What does it do? It actually manages the user computer interface. How the user of the computer and the computer, how are they communicating with each other? This is going to be managed by the operating system. For example, many a time, supposing you want to shut down your computer, or let's say you want to search something on the computer, right? How do you communicate this message to the computer that you want to search a particular thing, you are looking for a particular file, right? So naturally you have, in some operating systems you have got commands, and in some other operating systems you only click a particular icon. So this is how you are communicating with the computer, and this is how the communication is taking place. Again, if the computer wants to provide you the search results, how is it going to provide you the search result? Now it will give you the search result on the window, for example. Now this is how the computer is communicating to you. So this is what we mean by the user computer interface, right? And there are different categories of operating systems. For example, one category is this is one basis of categorization, this is the other basis of categorization, right? So in the first basis of categorization, we have got single tasking and multitasking operating system. Single tasking would be able to perform just one task. The case with Microsoft disk operating system, which used to be the operating system in earlier days, right? Nowadays we have got it replaced by the other more advanced systems. However, if you go for Unix is multitasking operating system. It can simultaneously take care of more than one task. That is why it is being known as multitasking. While MS-DOS at one point of time can only perform one task. So naturally you can understand that in terms of the operating system, Unix is probably a more advanced operating system than MS-DOS, Microsoft disk operating system, right? Again, another kind of categorization is how the interface looks like. Does the interface require characters? You need to type in some text to communicate with the computer, or does it look like you simply have to click at an icon to communicate with the computer? You simply click at, let's say, my photographs, and the photographs appear. So this is the graphic. Graphic means you have got images on which you can click. Now if you can have an understanding of graphic user interface, you want to have an understanding, you should understand that Windows, MS Windows, right, is a graphic user interface. What do you do? For example, let me take you to an example. Now for example, if I want to, let's say, open up this particular folder, what do I do? Do I give some command to the computer? No, I'm not giving any command. Do I need to type into some text? No. What will I do? I'll only be doing this. I'll be double clicking it, and the folder would open up. Now this is what I mean by a graphic user interface, Windows, and this is easier than the character user interface, wherein you have to basically communicate with the computer using some text. So you'll be typing in some command, right? I'll give an example of this very soon. So now this kind of interface is known as Unix, and that is why which of these two can a layman use who does not know any computer language, who does not know some commands? He can very easily use Windows, but he cannot use a Unix operating system. That is why you do not use Unix operating system. Only those who are doing their MCAs or BCAs or maybe engineering, they only use Unix operating system. They only know because they know the commands, right? So there's a difference between the two, and this one is more user friendly, while this requires specialized skills, which is difficult for everybody to have. And now I'll give you this example of character user interface. Now this is basically this is not Unix, this is another kind of character user interface, and this is basically MS-DOS. This one. So MS-DOS was not only single tasking, it was also character user interface. And now see, the commands have been given here. Now this is a command. See, documents and settings. Basically this command means that within C, look for documents and setting. Within documents and setting, look for this particular folder. So this is what this particular command means, and this is how the user is communicating with the computer, and that is why it is called the character user interface. Do you understand this point? Character user interface. Why? Because you have to mention some characters here to be able to communicate with the computer, and the computer is also going to use some characters to give you the results. Have a look here. So right, so the computer is giving you the result. Now this is the output given by the computer, and this again is in the form of characters. Fine. So this is an example of an operating system which is character user interface, and I told you this is MS-DOS. This is not Unix, but MS-DOS, the Microsoft disk operating system, is basically again a character user interface operating system. Is this okay? So now I hope you have understood it. Now I am going to give you another example of, now have you seen this particular icon and you know that this is Windows, right? So MS Windows, now which is a graphic user interface. Is this okay? You simply have to look at some images and then you have to click on those images. You don't need to know some particular commands to be able to communicate with this kind of operating system, right? Easier to use. Then let's talk about another kind of operating system. We generally only talk about operating systems only. This is another kind of system software, not the operating system, I'm sorry. So this is another kind of system software. One was the operating system, the second one is the language processor, and this basically does what? It actually processes the language. It converts the high level language to machine language, the language that we use to machine language when we are giving in some command to the computer, and when the computer is giving us some output, the machine language will get converted to high level language. So the translation works both ways, right? And some of the examples of this kind of system software, language processor system software, these are the examples: compilers, assemblers, and interpreters. This is fine. So as I said, I have discussed basically two types of system software, two examples of system software. One was the operating system and the other one was the language processor. Is this okay? Now let us now move on to the next one. What is the next one? I hope you remember, we have discussed system software. We have to now discuss the application software. So we are moving on to the application software now. Programs designed to perform a particular task. Now they are designed to perform only a particular task, right? Now please understand, I have told you already that the application software is going to work only when the system software is up and running. If there's a problem with the system software, you simply cannot use the application software. Now should we take an example of the system software that you are using in your mobile phones? Because generally nowadays most of the computing is now done on mobile phones actually, and mobile phones in essence is basically a small computer. So can you tell me what is the system software that you are using here? Most of you would be using the Google Android, which is basically what? Which is basically a system software for the Google devices, right? And suppose if you are making use of Snapchat, if you are making use of WhatsApp on your mobile, that is an example of an application software, right? And until unless the mobile is able to work properly, the Android starts working properly, you cannot operate your WhatsApp. So that is what I mean by saying that application softwares can only operate when the system software is working fine. Now let's have a look at the different types of application softwares. Customized softwares. Now they are customized softwares, which mean they are custom made for particular customers. For example, if you go to bank branches, you would find that there are many of the different bank branches. If you go to different banks, you would find they are making use of some kind of a software, and they've got different software. So now they are customized softwares because they've been custom made for that particular bank or for the banking function or the banking operations. So they are custom made, so you cannot use them to do something else, right? That is what we mean by custom made software, customized softwares. Finacle is one very prominent banking software which is used by so many different banks, and it is a product of Infosys, and this is an example of a customized software. Now let's take a look at the standardized software. Standardized would mean they do not come in different variations. One standard format is there, right? And they are used by different users. They simply do not allow much scope for customization. For example, MS Office. Now the MS Office that you might be using in your computer would be the same as the MS Office which is being used by some other person in some other computer, maybe even in America if he is sitting. The software would be the same. Of course, there are changes in the version, but within a particular version there would be no variations, right? So if let's say you are using Windows Vista, if you are using the 2009 version of MS Office, wherever you are sitting, whichever computer you are using or whichever computer system you have, the 2009 version would be the same for all. So that is what we mean by saying standardized softwares, general purpose. Now MS Office, then we've got the Tally software which is used as an accounting software. PageMaker is there many times, and Photoshop. These are used for modifying images and also when you want to publish a particular book. So many times PageMakers, invitation cards are made on PageMaker also. So Photoshop, Corel, so all these things, right? So they're standardized softwares, and then we have got the examples as well. We've got the Tally, we've got the Microsoft Office 2019, right? Let's talk about the utility softwares now. They have got particular use. For example, it could be the antivirus software, which you can see here. There could be the zipping software, where you zip in, basically you reduce the size by zipping in a particular folder, and disk fragmentation softwares are also used. They're all utility softwares. They have a particular use only. Antivirus would only protect your system from virus attacks, right? So they've got particular use only, and that is why they are known as utility softwares. They've got a particular utility, right? So these are the different kind of application softwares that we have. With this we will wrap up this particular session on the softwares also, and next we are going to move on to networking. Thank you very much.